people on the internet. Well, it's been quite a while. It's been way too long of a while. I'm not going to talk a lot about the video this time. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but for now I'm just going to be explaining things. So, by the time you see this, because I'm recording this without... the recording session of this is kind of weird. I'm recording at 4:52 a.m. and I'm drinking coffee and it's late, and I feel like I should have done this video a while ago, but I didn't know my living circumstances as of yet, so yeah. Now, if everyone's wondering, well, not everyone, but if people that watch this, who watch my videos, were remotely interested in the things I do online with art, are interested in where I've been, or what I've been doing, or why I just suddenly disappeared off the map, that is because I've actually haven't had internet and almost lost my electricity just a few weeks ago. It was kind of sudden. I thought I could get the bills paid up, or I thought I could help my roommate pay some of the bills. But it turns out all we had money for was the electric and the water bill, because my roommate has to go to work and she has to smell good, and I need electricity. Well, we both need electricity so that we can eat food that's stored in the fridge and that won't go bad or anything like that. But yeah, I haven't had internet for the past 2.5 weeks. This is probably gonna go up on, I don't know, what day is it right now? It's 4:54. It's a Thursday, and it's probably gonna go up on the Saturday that of this week that I'm recording. Yeah, it's gonna go up on like the 1st of August probably, because that's probably the soonest I'm gonna get internet back up, which sucks. But like, while I've been gone, I haven't just been sitting around playing Skyrim for 80 hours. I say that tentatively because that's what I did for about 30 or 40 for the first 80 hours. I didn't have internet. That's what I did. But I've also recently gotten back to doing what I should have been doing, or what I needed to do, which is this. I needed to do art. I needed to draw stuff. I needed to keep myself a little bit up to date, so to speak, on everything. But yeah, that's the thing. Most people think I live a pretty stable life. No, it's not. I nearly lose half my utilities almost every couple weeks, which sucks. I probably should be better at that, but it's hard to pay bills when it's only you and another person, and one works at a Target. It's not fun. But yeah. So right now I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the video. Enough of depressing stuff. So what I just did there with that like 2B pencil brush I had was I couldn't see anything that I had sketched out earlier, even though I thought I had sketched it out pretty well. It was actually kind of blurry and it didn't make sense to me, so I went over with a darker pencil and I recolored it, made it look a little bit nicer, or not nicer, made it look a little bit more noticeable, and then I went back over with the line art pen and I did the lines. Actually right now I'm using my, if I can read that properly, it's the mapping pen line art. I just added the word line art to the end of mapping pen, which is just a standard pen that comes with Manga Studio 5. Yeah, it's just a really stable brush that I use for line art. It's a high brush stroke, high stability brush. It's very stable. It causes really clean lines. I really like it. It's really nice. In this, I actually should have fixed this in post, drawing, but I didn't, and I think it looks fine. Mistakes are half part of art. Anyway, excuse me. Drinking coffee makes me a little bit burpy. I'll edit that out in post. But yeah, I should have fixed that. Left a leg pauldron in there. It looks kind of weird. But yeah, see, like this pen is just really high stability, really high brush stroke. So it makes doing heart shapes and stuff like that real easy. And stuff like that, like even straight lines, makes it really easy. Now this, I wanted to do it like that, but then I decided it looked really bad. And then I decided to do it like this, and I'm like, one side looks okay, I guess. One side does not. And I'm just messing around with stuff. And if you ever say like pauses or whatever, every few minutes, that's just because I was getting pulled away by family members or my roommate. It was laundry day. Plus I had to clean the bathroom, so yeah. Going back and fixing some of this junk that I did. Looking at it now in my own drawing, it looks kind of weird, but I like the heart on the front. If you don't know what I'm drawing, or if you don't know who I am, then hi, and if you want to know what I'm drawing, then I'm actually drawing I'm drawing a cover to my manga. This is gonna be chapter 2 cover that I'm doing. If you saw it on the screen, this is the character Julian Connor, or in this form she's known as Flashburn, or as Google Translate calls it in Japanese, Flashburn. Yeah, that's really bad Japanese accent. I'm sorry to anyone who's Japanese watching this. But yeah, this is one of the characters. Her name is Flashburn. You'll get to know more about her in the actual manga that I'm drawing. It's going very slowly, just to let you know. But yeah, she's pretty Sentai-ish. Got inspired by like Kamen Rider Drive and Wagon from the Tokyuger series. I also went ahead and made a bunch of like color palettes for all my characters in my manga, just because I can, and it makes doing the colors a lot easier, so I'm not color picking from like trying to color pick like a tiny minute pixel in a certain area, which sucks. It makes everything a little bit more uniform. Also, what I'm doing here is I put the color layer at 50% so that the color can seep through into the entire line, or as much of the line as possible, so that there's no like weird gaps or anything. just going back over, using this enclose and fill tool. I don't know what it is in Photoshop, but there is a similar thing, and it's like the lasso tool in Photoshop. But you just select it and then color drop or whatever, I think, and it just fills in using the paint bucket tool to quickly fill. Mainly because I don't need to hand color everything. Some people think you should, but I don't think you should unless you need to. Going back and fixing like some of these areas where some of the color is seeping through, making sure everything is inside the lines as your first grade teacher would have taught you. Yeah, that whole like spoiler thing on the back of her head, really inspired by Kamen Rider Drive. The pauldrons, leg pauldron, no, arm pauldrons really are inspired by Wagon. Like I couldn't really think of an interesting shape, so I just chose this weird oblong like oval thing. The heart shape is the hearts are obviously Wagon and everything, but I just like heart-shaped things on Sentais. I don't know. It just looks really cute to me. But if a person can make it look badass, then that's cool too. I was gonna put her name in Japanese on her chest plate there, like in the black area, but that wasn't gonna go very well. I tried it, and I couldn't really get the warping effect to make it look like it was really like on her chest, which sucks. Oh wow, I'm already into the coloring stage. I didn't even notice that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna start coloring here and doing a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I stopped here because I'm actually looking at like coloring references of other mangas to see like do they like I'm trying to make this look as like official as possible. Like, do they just use like simple backgrounds? Do they use like soft shading or cell shading or whatever? And I figured that a lot use soft shading, but some use cell shading, and it's looking all right. But I'm like, no, that's not what I want to go for. I want to do this. I want to do it in my style. I haven't drawn anything in my style in a long time. I don't know why I pulled up the sketch layer on the background there, but I did. Whatever. Trying to add some minute shading to those, add a little bit of depth. Now I really like when people shade dark areas like the blacks and all that of a character, and they don't make it like soft shading or anything like that. They don't use like a soft shading style or anything. They just use like solid like areas, and it looks really nice. I like it, especially on like glass and metal. Now I'm trying to drink this coffee as quietly as possible, so I don't wake anyone else up in the house. It's pretty early. Trying to let my shading do a lot of work here, and I think it turned out fine. Really brings a lot to the piece. And this, I had a little bit of trouble trying to think about it. Like, should I make it like really like it's her, like it looks like breasts, or should I just do it like it's a solid piece of glass? But it's like, no, if it's more uniform to her body, then it would make sense. You want to have something that fits your character nice, and if it doesn't, then it looks like they're wearing a big suit of like meat. It looks wrong. And I started shading like that, and I realized that's not how a suit would work, and I realized that. Also, quick thing. Remember, kids, if you're trying to draw a line over another line and you don't want to mess up and erase a line and then have the other line be erased as well, put a layer over a layer when you need to put something on top of that, and then you can just erase the parts that you don't need, and then combine the two, and then it'll look like one full thing. I did a little bit of that in the beginning here. And if you're watching this and there's some artifacting, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. I think my video card is acting funny lately. But if you see stops like that, that's probably me messing with some like what's it called? Some settings on my brushes or my tools. And this is really like a boring part that people don't like to talk about is the shading. But if you want to give a tip, if I want to give a tip on shading, if you want good values, which I've struggled and I've conquered in my life, and then I've struggled some more, make sure that you color the area that you want to shade in gray first, like a 50%, maybe a 60, 45%, 45 to 60% gray, and then go back over it with either a black or another gray, and then put it on multiply. Go back over it with another gray on multiply, and just do it that way. Do your dark shadings that way, and make sure that when you do your shading that there's only shadows coming from one side, or if it's on a like a what's it called? Or if it's on like a jewel or something, it's the shading looks not realistic, but a proper, like you're not gonna have like 8 different light sources on one piece of jewel or whatever, or metal. Make sure your light is always coming from one direction, and the top. Here I'm doing hand stuff, but you can't see me. One direction, like from like the right or left or bottom, or you can have 2 sets of light if you don't want to have just one set of light. I usually have light coming from either side or the bottom slightly, and light coming from the top, because there's usually lights above a character, like the sun, or like the sun's reflecting off the ground, or it's the sun's in the sky but it's to the left of them. It would make sense. Also, don't use white for lighting. Don't, like for the soft light, don't use a pure white, because that doesn't look natural. Use like a yellow and orange. Red sometimes works if your character's like in a fire or something. But when you're doing this kind of stuff where it's supposed to be the shiny part of the light, you can use white. Just don't go too crazy with it, because it might not look so good. It might look a little disorganized. Maybe might look a little messy. Also, what I did there with the light on the light on the glass of the helmet, I just did a few quick things and like lines across it, and I erased what I didn't want with a soft with a hard brush with a soft edge, and then I just control shifted, and I drew a line straight down. I drew an eraser line straight down to give it a straight feel, but it would still be soft. And I'm using that same brush here, so I'm erasing what I don't want and making sure that there's 2 lights coming across, because it's a shiny piece of metal that she's wearing, or like a not metal, like a hard polymer. I'm not going for full metal here. If I was doing full metal, it would be very, very shiny, and it wouldn't look very good, personally. Gotta give it some shiny areas. Give her some shiny spots right there. I'm doing a lot of shininess on her arm, but you're gonna be barely able to see with all the extra lighting stuff I'm gonna do with it. This is just a quick scratching across and erase. Erase some of that, make it look a little bit soft. oh, that's the shine layer. The way I set up my lighting layer is I have soft light on the very bottom, uh, the darks or the shadows in the middle, so that the shadows are overpowering the light, because that's usually how darkness works. Dark is more contrasting to the light, and then the shiny part is on the very top, but it's on like a soft light or an overlay layer. I don't know if those are on Photoshop. I'm sorry. I wish I had my version of Photoshop, but after my computer crash of 2014, it's not here anymore. And I'm actually doing this, and this is a new thing for me, is adding a layer of shine, or like glow, on the edge of and I'm messing with blur effects there. Yeah, that looks pretty cool, but it's not really the feel I'm going for here. Yeah, and now I'm doing the straight line across that to give it a little bit extra finesse, I guess you could say. And yeah, and this is just a glow layer on like areas where it's supposed to be a little bit glowy, where the light's hitting it. Like the metal bits up there. Like the metal bits are all the gray bits. All the suit bits are like a hard space polymer, quote unquote. And I drew on a gradient of a different color on the bottom, so that it looks like there's not that much light coming from the bottom, but there's light coming from the top and the side, or the top and the front of her, really. What else is going on? Oh yeah, the glow on the helmet, I actually messed that up a little bit. Yeah, it looked really cool the way it was, but I actually messed it up a little bit, and you'll see it and I'll point it out, but I had to go back and fix it with all the other versions I'm doing for this, which you'll see at the end. But yeah, there's a tiny bit of glow on it, and this I was looking at other things, like how do people put their manga covers in? I was just like, well, there's really no template for it. There's really no like go-to, like this is how a manga cover should look. Everyone has their special ways of doing it. So I was just like, okay, I'll just do it my way. Fine, whatever. Try to make it look as professional as possible. I have this flame brush that comes with Manga Studio 5, but when I was drawing with it, I'm like, this doesn't work with color. So I was like, you know what, this doesn't look good. So I went to one thing that I know that does look good for flames, which oddly enough is very odd, but it's a sand cloud. In like the manga settings for Manga Studio, like in black and white, the sand cloud actually looks like a sand cloud, and it looks really cool. But in color, you can put it with red, yellow, orange, and blue, give or take, and you can make it look like a flame. Look, it looks like a flame already. And I'm adding a little bit of glow around here again on a layer, on a folder below. Always organize your layers in folders so that it's easy to select all of them or delete all of them if you don't like it. And here I'm just using like a textured blurring tool to blur the edges a little bit to make it a little bit more glowy, a little bit more crazy. And I'm adding and using normal blur to make it a little bit more, to make it even more blurry. And I'm adding this is something I figured out that is actually really cool. I'm using a sunset gradient that's supposed to be used for sunsets, but I'm using it as a layer of light against her, so it looks like the orange is rising up into a red at her head, and adding a little bit more glow in the background because fire is very bright, very bright. I did a whole bunch of other stuff, and I made myself a signature little logo thing. It's just a stupid square with that, everyone's gotta have their little logo, and I got sick of writing it all the time. And I used to do this a lot. I used to use a lot of signatures like this, and I'm gonna move that signature later. And yeah, if you look at the top of her head, there's a little bit of glow coming off. It looks very unnatural, unrealistic, and that's what I was gonna delete, like on just the very top of her helmet, not the spoiler thing on the back. And if you saw those two, what's it called? Logos, I guess you would call them. Yeah, see, I moved it. I'm gonna remove it again. There you go. There you go, gigawatts. There you go. But yeah, those logos. Those are actually logos I drew for my manga. It says Psycho Climax, obviously. That's what the name of it is. This chapter for this cover for this chapter I'm doing is called it's just called Flashburn, because it's a little bit more of an introduction to her. You get an introduction in the first chapter, which I'm finishing up. I need 4 more pages, I think, to finish drawing, or sketching, and then inking. And I'm almost done. Oh, it's almost done. I'm just going a once over for it. And here's the first one. This is just the first version that I exported out. And here's the other one. I couldn't figure out which one looked better, so I used both. They both look good. They look like movie posters, actually. And this is just without the logo. And the last one, I think, is a black and white version. Yep, there it is. Well, thank you for watching. Have a good day.